Alright, in this episode I'm just doing some practicing, starting with a taper on a piece of scrap that's about 5/16 to 3/8 of an inch square. And we're just putting a taper on the very tip of it. The taper's probably about 3/8 of an inch long, maybe 7/16. And now we're going to go ahead and isolate the tip just behind the taper, and I took about a cube of material. So that's about 3/8 or 5/16 behind the start of the taper. And now I'm just hitting the edge of the anvil, trying to thin down that area right behind what I isolated. I'm going to come back up on the flat of the anvil and clean that up. And I'm pretty much just working 90 degrees, two sides of the steel. So now I'm on the near side of the anvil, and if you notice, I rotated the work 180 degrees, and the downset is pretty much 180 degrees off of where I started. And the reason I do that is so you'll be able to hit the material without messing up your taper and your isolated material, and hopefully you'll be able to see that a little bit later. So in case you were wondering at the intro of the video, I'm going to go ahead and straighten this out right now. So in case you were wondering at the intro of the video, if you hear that little bit of blip of words and you can't make it out, I'm basically saying, "Come look." I saw that finch, the golden finch, sitting out on some flowers in front of the house, and I was calling my granddaughter to come see it. And she did make it over before it flew away. So right now I'm just kind of working the edge of the anvil, and I'm trying to stretch that piece of thinned out material across the width of the anvil. So offsetting both tapers, or both downsets 180 degrees, I'm able to work on the anvil without messing up the opposite end. And it's pretty thin, so it cools off quick, but it's a mild steel, and it's moving pretty good in the black heat. And now I'm just continuing to stretch it across the anvil, cleaning up right behind the taper. And I'm back up on the edge, trying to thin it down a little bit more, because it doesn't like to thin when you're hitting it flat on the anvil with a flat hammer. Trying to get that as thin as possible. This is going to be a keychain, and big bulky keychains are kind of not my thing. I like to get my material 1/8 of an inch or smaller, at least on the ring. And now we are just cleaning up behind the isolated material, starting to do some rounding, starting to hit the corners off. You know, and typically you want to go square, octagon, round, but this material is so small I really can't even see if I'm octagon or whatever. So I just kind of went from square into rounding. So now I'm using a pair of farrier's tongs and small pair of bolt jaw tongs that I've been holding material with. I'm just twisting the back of it off. I'm going to break that excess material off. And I'm going to do a fine taper. I'm not going to get too crazy with it because it's getting pretty thin as it is, and it will start to split at the end. And back to doing some rounding. Kind of just hitting the corners that I just knocked down. I don't do very many voiceovers, so let me know how this is. If you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. It's a whole nother step in the editing process, but it's all right. If it's better than talking while I'm hammering, let me know, because I know sometimes I get to hammering and forget to talk. So now I'm going to go ahead and set down my isolated material, and that's my rounding hammer. I want to spread that material in every direction. Try to just get that to go in every direction as evenly as possible. So, and I do not thin it all the way down when I do that, because it's going to get thinned down more as I start to chisel in the veins of my leaf. This is the main vein going right down the center. Everybody has their own style on leaf. I think I've kind of settled that this is going to be my style, at least for right now. I bludgeon that chisel to the thickness that I want it to set up my leaf keychains, and I think I got it where I like it at the moment. So I'm sure that's probably going to evolve and change as time goes on. But I really like simple leaves, just a few lines cut in them. It's more of a representation of a leaf than it is an actual leaf. And as you chisel and cut and put the lines in, you can see it curls up. It gets a little bit hard to handle. So what you didn't see on camera is after every heat, I kind of just flattened it back out before I went to the next heat. I think it took me about 3 or 4 heats, to get the leaf all chiseled out. And now I'm just putting some reverse curve just on the very tip of the leaf. And now for the little penny scroll. Or scroll. I don't know if it's a penny scroll, but it's a little teeny scroll. And this is a good thing to practice. You want your scrolls to be as circular as possible without any flat spots or edges in them. So since this is a one-off, I did not set my jig up in the vise. I'm just trying to do this over the horn with a pair of scrolling tongs, and I'm just getting it around the horn for now. And now I'm going to go ahead and shape it on the horn with a hammer. And these are very, very light taps. I do not want to flatten out my rounded material. Very, very light taps. It's more pushing than hitting. And some fine tuning with the scrolling tongs. A little bit of straightening. Tapping and tinkering around. There's always tinkering and tapping. And now the final squeeze to make sure there's no gaps. You don't want to lose your keys, because if you bought this and you lost your keys, you'd be extremely angry at me. And there is the finished product before I put it on the belt sander with the wire wheel. So I kind of clean up any sharp edges with the fine grit belt sander and put it on the wire wheel. So here you go. There's the finished product.
Like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned for more Metal Man Production.